The archaeological site on Kepler 442b had stumped the Galactic Research Consortium for 3 standard months. The towering obsidian monoliths covered in intricate symbols had resisted every attempt at translation, despite the combined efforts of the galaxy's most brilliant xenolinguists and code-breaking algorithms. Professor Velcris of the Centauri Academy ran his 4-fingered hand across his scaled forehead in frustration. His team had tried everything: quantum pattern analysis, neural network interpretation, even primitive brute force methods. The symbols seemed to follow some logical pattern, but the meaning remained elusive. Perhaps we should request additional computational resources from the homeworlds, suggested Dr. Thane, her insectoid compound eyes reflecting the alien script. The Council has approved funding for another month of deep analysis. Velcris shook his head, his neck gills fluttering with exasperation. We've already processed these symbols through every linguistic framework known to the consortium. These markings could be the key to understanding the vanished civilization that built this complex, yet we're no closer to deciphering them than when we started. The research station buzzed with activity as dozens of alien scholars pored over holographic projections of the symbols. Complex mathematical models filled the air, rotating and shifting as supercomputers attempted to find patterns within patterns. It was then that the human delegation arrived. Captain Reed stepped off the transport shuttle, followed by linguist Emma Walsh and archaeologist David Kim. The humans had been invited as an afterthought, more out of diplomatic courtesy than any real expectation they could contribute meaningfully to the investigation. "Welcome to Research Station Alpha 7. Velcris greeted them with the formal clicking sounds that passed for politeness among his species. "We appreciate the Terran Republic's interest in this project, though I must warn you that we have exhausted most conventional approaches to decipherment." Emma smiled politely as she accepted a translation device. "We're honored to be here, Professor. Sometimes fresh eyes can spot things that specialists might miss." The humans were given a brief tour of the site, shown the towering monoliths with their mysterious script, and provided access to all the research data the alien team had compiled. David photographed the symbols while Emma took detailed notes. That evening, while the alien researchers continued their intensive computational analysis, the 3 humans sat in their modest quarters reviewing the day's findings. "The symbols definitely have structure," Emma observed, studying the images on her tablet. "Look at how they repeat in certain configurations. It's almost like—" She paused, tilting her head as she examined the patterns more closely. "Like what?" Reed asked, setting down his coffee. "Like a crossword puzzle," Emma said slowly. "See how some symbols appear to intersect with others? And there are these blank spaces that might represent word boundaries." David leaned over to look at her tablet. "You know, now that you mention it, these longer sequences do look like they could be clues, and these shorter ones might be answers that fit into a grid pattern." Emma's eyes lit up. She pulled up an app on her phone, a simple crossword solver she used during her commute back on Earth. "What if we treat this like a word puzzle instead of a linguistic cipher?" She began inputting the symbol patterns into the app, using the repeated elements as anchors. The software, designed to find word patterns and common letter combinations in human languages, started making connections that the alien supercomputers had missed. Within minutes, the app began suggesting pattern matches. Emma's hands flew across her tablet as she mapped the suggested solutions back onto the alien script. "This can't be right," David muttered, as they watched the translation take shape. But it was right. The ancient symbols weren't some complex philosophical treatise or scientific formula. They were recreational puzzles, crosswords, word searches, and logic games left behind by a civilization that apparently enjoyed mental challenges during their leisure time. The next morning, Emma presented their findings to the assembled alien researchers. Professor Velcris's gill slits twitched in what might have been disbelief, as she explained how a simple human puzzle app had succeeded where their most advanced systems had failed. "You solved in one evening what we could not decipher in 3 months, Thane said, her compound eyes reflecting a mixture of amazement and embarrassment. Emma shrugged modestly. We just approached it differently. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the correct one. Your computers were looking for deep meaning and complex linguistics. We were looking for patterns that entertained people on their weekend afternoons. The discovery revolutionized understanding of the vanished civilization. They weren't the mysterious, transcendent beings the alien researchers had imagined. They were ordinary people who enjoyed puzzles, games, and mental challenges, not unlike humans themselves. Word of the breakthrough spread throughout the Galactic Consortium. The story of how humans had cracked an ancient code using a crossword app became legendary, earning humanity a reputation for unconventional problem-solving that would serve them well in future diplomatic and scientific endeavors. Professor Velkris later wrote in his official report, "The human approach to problem-solving appears to value simplicity and practical application over theoretical complexity. While their methods may seem primitive, their effectiveness cannot be disputed. Perhaps there is wisdom in occasionally stepping back from our sophisticated tools and considering the most straightforward interpretation of the evidence before us." The monoliths still stood on Kepler 442b, but now instead of mysterious warnings or cosmic revelations, tourists could read the ancient equivalent of 7-letter word for happiness and capital of the third moon, 4 letters. Sometimes the greatest mysteries had the most ordinary answers.